The second goal is expanding democracy, right? Trying to get the people more involved in the procedures of government. So one issue that was around at the period was called patronage, which simply means you're giving your jobs or giving government jobs to people who supported you along the way. Now, it could be your oldest friend. It could be one of your most loyal supporters. It could be somebody who was not adequately trained or prepared for the job, but you gave them the job anyway because they helped you along the way, and people considered that a problem, and rightfully so. So the progressive era brings about the civil service exam, which is still used today. It determines who is most qualified for that particular government job. Right, and then a couple of four principles that come into play here, all about, once again, restoring democratic power, meaning bringing people, allowing people to have more say in what goes on in government. The first one is direct primaries. Now, that's where all the people in a particular political party, they vote and select who the presidential candidate is going to be from their particular party. So we just had the recent election. We had the Republican primaries. There were multiple Republican candidates that wanted to run for president, and they would have debates and travel around the country, right, trying to encourage Republican voters that they would be the best candidate to run against President Obama in the election. Now, previous to this, right, it was determined by a select group of people who the particular presidential candidate would be. So the people really didn't have a say. It was the power grabbers behind the scenes that controlled the political parties who had control over who the candidates were, right? And then these three kind of go together because it gives more of a direct say in government. All right, first one is an initiative that allows the people to petition to have a bill placed on the ballot in order to be able to vote, right? Referendum, kind of the same thing. If there's a law that's out there that the people don't approve of, right, they can vote to have that law taken down. And the last one, which gives a lot of the power to the people, if they feel a candidate or an elected official is not doing a good enough job, right, it can be put on the ballot to vote on whether or not that person should continue in that particular role, right? So there's been instances in American history where governors of states have been recalled from office because the people of that particular state didn't feel that they were doing a good enough job. Okay. Another issue within the political area was corruption, trying to eliminate as much corruption as possible. That goes along with big business, getting more control over local governments, state governments. But we also see the presence of political machines. Now, in the last chapter, we did discuss briefly Tammany Hall and Boss Tweed. Now, the way their corruption worked is they kind of disguised that corruption a little bit. For example, they would exchange jobs for votes, especially with immigrants, right? So when immigrants come to the United States, the one thing they need is jobs. So the political machine will help them find employment with the catch that in the upcoming election, they would vote for the candidate that the political machine wanted to have elected, and the leader obviously being Boss Tweed. Okay, so the 17th Amendment, 1913, that provides for the people voting directly for the senators. Right. Goal number 3 would be economic reform. Economic has to do with money. Right. These two guys over here should look familiar: Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller. Right. This is all about trying to limit the power of what becomes known as big business, and that's where you have those giant corporations and trusts that are forming monopolies and hurting us, the consumers. Right. We had previous videos on our channel that discussed how big business hurt consumers. Right. We're going to focus now on how government and progressive reformers try and stop them. So we have a number of laws that come about: the Sherman Antitrust Act and the Clayton Antitrust Act, aimed at trying to break up trusts and monopolies. The 16th Amendment, which provides for an income tax that was initially aimed at trying to tax these big, large.
Rockefeller and his associates did not build the Standard Oil Company in the boardrooms of Wall Street banks. They fought their way to control by rebate and drawback, bribe and blackmail, espionage and price cutting, by ruthless efficiency of organization.
Okay. Continuing with the economic, we have some issues with unhealthy food and medicine, right, which through the works of Upton Sinclair, other muckrakers, we have what becomes known as the Pure Food and Drug Act, right, which creates a government organization that monitors the safety of food, right? The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, right, occurs during this period. We have 146 workers in a clothing factory. It was mostly women, teenage women, young women. The bosses, the owners, they would lock the doors of the factory to make sure that nobody had any extended breaks. And a fire broke out, and the people, the women inside, couldn't escape. Right, and the fire obviously killed them. So that kind of led to the government getting more involved in trying to make workplaces a little bit more safer. Definitely more monitoring of the environment that people work in. And then we also had discussed briefly last chapter was the formation of labor unions. All right, the use of strikes and boycotts to try and make better working conditions, make life better for workers.
I aimed at the public's heart, and by accident, I hit it in the stomach.